Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of Planet Coaster and Alpine Odyssey, where we get to continue work on the garage. And this is going to be the final garage and kind of final back parking spot that we will have here in the initial parking area for our guests. Now, eventually we will be moving on into the rest of the park, but do have some patience because this kind of stuff for me is super important so that we can get the overall atmosphere correct and get that really leading into the overall layout and how it interacts with the flow and design philosophy of just the theme in general. So we're going to go ahead, lay out a bunch of basic shapes, and the nice thing about these parking garages is the fact that they are these multi-story, very simple repeating structures. So all we really need to do is go ahead and make the first floor. The first floor is going to be a good maintained balance, and at that point we can just make a variant for the middle floors and then an extra variant for the top floor if you choose to have one in your parking lots. It's not really a necessary kind of thing to have for one of these, but I know a lot of parking garages kind of use that upper floor just for extra parking if they're not conjoined to an already established building, or that upper space isn't used for really anything else. I know some maybe could be a plaza-like element if you're in like a really heavy downtown area, and that plaza element might conjoin to taller buildings. But in our case, we're not really in that setting. We're kind of off in the middle of nowhere, so we can use the top floor at our leisure. Now, the nice thing is we get to really mix in these yellow and white lines, providing a little bit of an interesting color break. And that also kind of designates these really nice kind of no parking, no driving through zones, really to help assist with the flow of traffic, but also to keep our people as safe as possible. It's not going to be the safest area to be in, I understand. You know, I am designing this like an idiot, I'm sure, in a lot of areas, so do excuse my ignorance when it comes to parking lots. And that really is something that I have a huge amount of knowledge in, beyond I parked my car in one. That's about it. So, the upper floor, since we don't have to worry about the entrance and exit taking up that extra wall space, we can actually use that here for some new parking spots. And that's going to create, one, of course, extra parking, but also a nice variant and a little bit of change of pace in details. Now, we're going to have to set up these staircases, get them laid out relatively correctly, and start thinking about the no parking areas along the edge here, around the pillars. You know, give your vehicles a little bit plenty of space to really make these turns and make them smooth as possible, because you don't want people to possibly run into your vehicle. So give them plenty of room, plenty of leniency to navigate these tight quarters that we're going to have in this parking garage. We're going to expand the yellow taped area to the left of the elevator shaft, and this is going to encompass this little staircase, making it a really safe area. It's going to be the really heavy foot traffic area of this parking garage. It's going to have the main exits down. Of course, we have a staircase on the opposite side, but I would assume most people would want to kind of climb down closer towards the bus stop. That's just how I'm assuming most people would work. But the other staircase is, of course, fire hazard safety. Also, of course, the people that don't want to walk across the whole parking lot just to go down 4 stories. It's really not that tall of a parking garage if you think about it. The one I park my car in a lot is actually I believe a 6-story parking garage. So, there are bigger variants that we could be doing, but keeping it simple and clean, I think, is super important, especially since all this line work and custom design details that we are adding does eat up a lot of our park count. And these two buildings combined, 40,000 parts. So you can see that by the time we're done with this park, I'm going to go ahead and assume we're going to be 500,000 parts if I had to be a betting man right now. And Cora, which didn't even take up the whole map. I mean, that build was 160 to 180,000, so it is very easy for me to go a little overboard when it comes to the part count. Luckily, we do have the new PC. It is up and running again and going pretty strong. We are getting about 70 FPS right now, and push comes to shove, I can kind of downscale things and try and save FPS later on. But right now, running on Ultra, making it look really nice. We got some cool overhang elements here. These are the conjoined sections of the parking lots. And it's really important to me to have a section like that, not only because it's in the last variation that we did before we ended up losing the save, but I think it is a nice design decision to just follow in most of my buildings. I like to interact with height values. I like to interact with different layers of details and different depth kind of layers as well. And bridges and overpass, underpass areas really add to those things very fluidly and dynamically without really having to worry about too much stuff. You can only build so many squares on top of squares to get your detail. At some point, you're going to have to worry about the verticals and how they interact, and also the negative space in general. And that's really the nice thing about bridge elements. They provide a vertical, but also a nice negative space under it, and providing a nice sight line, hopefully, to the back kind of parking area that we're going to have back there. This parking space over on this left side is actually surprisingly a lot bigger than I thought it was. So we do have a lot of parking now. So we can save blueprints, by the way. The awnings are going to be blueprints. That's going to help us in the long run really quickly place these things down, especially over awkward spots like these staircases, the elevator shafts. You want these people to be somewhat covered from the rain as they enter these areas. It is not a solid structure, it's more like a ribbed kind of more of it for shade, but I'm sure it would help a little bit with the weather, and it just adds that extra vertical element and detail on top such a flat and square structure that it just looks really nice to me. So we're going to keep using them. We're also probably going to end up using them a lot in the more open parking spots eventually, and just here and there, maybe along the edge, a few around the center. And with that mix of flower beds, trees, we can get a pretty cool look. We're going to add a whole bunch of lighting. Lighting is super important in parking garages. You want to make your people feel safe when they enter these at night or anything like that. So you're going to have to take lighting all the way down through the different floors, through all the staircases. You don't want to have any majorly dark corners, or you just want to have it a good atmosphere. Also, it just looks cool. It looks cool to see this thing lit up at night. It really glows in the distance. It's quite the beacon of this building excitement. And that's another reason for me to work on this parking garage, is the sense of kind of this building of atmosphere and getting these whole areas to kind of work together. Now, these vertical lights, they don't really provide much light, if at all. So we can use some spotlights kind of hidden in the roof above it. That way they glow and produce an adequate amount of lighting for us in the future. All the garage space, we're going to need this in here. I do build some of this on live stream. So if you guys were here last Sunday around 11:30, you got to see me build the first little garage that we're in right now. But of course I had to go back in, add some details. There's just some minor detail work that we can do off camera. I think after this episode, the parking garages are done. So we know we'll pretty much never have to make another one, unless you want something for a backstage area. I don't think so though. But we'll see. We'll see where that park takes us and what goes where eventually. Of course, more handicap spots here, just right there along that nice wide sidewalk, and we can put a new awning over it. It's going to take a little bit to adjust and kind of stitch together and make a custom little piece here. But it goes relatively quick, and really it's not that big of a deal to copy some wooden planks left and right. You know, after the Legend of Korra build, doing this kind of thing is so kind of second nature at this point, especially from all those roof tiles, that it doesn't even feel like a big waste of time anymore. So we get a lot of open air parking here. We get plenty of spots even on the back side. I was really surprised on just how many spots we're gonna get in there, and it's just gonna look really nice once we get some trim, we get some greenery elements, plenty of arrows so we can direct the flow of traffic at least somewhat. I know parking lots can be a little bit hectic, and I've been in plenty of parking lots, especially around like hospitals and those really big infrastructure things, maybe even like a stadium, where parking becomes a little confusing over time because there's just so many ways you can get around it, that it's really important to have these arrows directing people around and making sure they get to their destination as quickly and safely as possible. Though, you know, in real life terms, this is actually a really small parking lot. You know, we don't have a huge amount of spaces. The garage definitely provide most, if not all, the parking spots of this whole back area, and it's gonna be a pretty cool process laying out all these vehicles that we've been building during the live streams. Your guys' feedback have been magnificent on those, because that's kind of really my main inspiration when we do work on vehicles, is just, you know, how you guys like the vehicles, what vehicles excite you to maybe see in the game and add to the vehicle pack so you can maybe use it in your own park. And once these parking lots are done, we'll be able to upload that to the workshop so you can start with a parking lot as well. Though I get the feeling that once this is done, the park count alone, I know most people with probably an average PC would probably be struggling to add a park just due to the park count over time, but that's just kind of the nature of the beast at this point. We got a nice low flower bed that we're going to wrap around a lot of the edges here. We're going to fill them with some low-lying shrubs. We're also going to fill them with some alternating pine trees at different sizes and shapes, just to keep the variety going. And on the interior flower beds, kind of on the more front side of things, we'll mix up the tree variety to more proper evergreens and some proper taller trees. And that's going to provide a pretty cool balance between tall and narrow, short and stocky, the different kind of leaf types from needle points. We do have one, maybe two broadleaf kind of structures around here, but definitely a lot more firs, a lot more of these just pine trees in general. It is Alpine Odyssey after all, so it's going to be a little bit more of a northern-esque look. You can sink a lot of the tree tips in the ground as well to get kind of just the tops poking through, and that's really handy for a lot of these more narrow flower beds, and you know, just to fill in those space, because you want that in there. And you don't want to go crazy with bushes in parking lot areas. You know, you want people to be able to see around. That's also why we don't have the foliage kind of closer to the roadside, because you know, if you're a driver like me and you're leaving a building and there's a bush right there at the exit way blocking half your view, it's very frustrating to go through that. So, you know, I'm trying to leave that space out of courtesy, even though there's really going to be no one here to appreciate that kind of effort, because the NPCs don't drive. It looks like they really only walk or take trains. Why am I building a parking lot? They don't drive. Do they drive? Do they drive in this world? I mean, we haven't seen anything that they've driven. Did they even have concept art of drive? I don't know. Anyways, they drive go-karts. That's a new thing. I haven't built one of those yet, so I'm kind of forgetting that they exist sometimes. We're going to widen up the parking lot entrance. I'm kind of rambling at this point, but sometimes, guys, after so many recordings, you kind of run out of things to say. We're building another parking lot, and it's going on 1 in the morning when I'm recording this, so I'm a little tired, a little loopy, Do forgive me for that, but you guys will get to see this in real time here soon enough, and give me your wonderful feedback that I use to make this park even better. That's definitely the main thing that I enjoy about doing YouTube here on the channel. Your guys' feedback and overall suggestions to help me make a believable park. It's definitely not realistic by any means, but then again, I don't ever claim to try and do something 100% realistic. I would get the feeling that as soon as I would say that, I would get 1,000 comments saying, actually, Uthris, the parking meters are about 2 inches too wide on the left, and that's not realistic at all. So that's why I don't ever claim that. I claim more believability to the game world itself. I think that's kind of a nice safe buffer that I do for my sanity more so than anything. So let's take a look at it in real time. You guys will give me your feedback. I'll take it to heart, and then we can move on from there into some new areas. Alright, so here we are, real time, taking a look at these wonderful parking garage that we have made over the past 2 episodes or so. Slowly starting to add in the vehicles that we've been making during the live streams, filling in just these spot details, and really, I think this is the stuff that makes the whole area kind of come to life, beyond just the buildings, the lights, and the trees, the whole clutterness, or the, say, livability of the area is very important to me. So that's really what the vehicles kind of capture. It looks more like a used area with people kind of in the area, even though there's no people at all. It's a ghost town over here. We even have like a little hatchback going across the bridge because I like things like that. Little bits of movement, even though it's just like a still point in time forever over here at the garage. So we got our pretty cool little garden area. I went with some taller tree elements to kind of fill in some of these gaps, and just to make it play with the buildings a little bit more. And the change of tree type is pretty nice as well. We're definitely trying to make this look a little bit more of course, like an Alpine-esque feel. So a lot of evergreens are going to be used, though I'm sure we're going to have plenty of space for birches and oaks, and some broadleafs for sure. The nice parking sign out here, which will probably change color depending on how we end up naming these, because that's going to be an important theming thing to do. But we won't know exactly how to do something like that until a bit later. You'll also notice if we zoom out a little bit, I did get rid of some of these street signs. I felt they were a little redundant, a little too much information for just a 2-lane road that we're going to really have through here. We do have some, kind of over there and right at the kind of entrance exit point. So I think that's kind of where they should remain, leaving this nice and open from a distance. Parking garage wise, very similar to the one before. We get a little bit more open space though to work with. I am thinking about adding some parking spots along this wall here, though at that point it becomes a little bit more of a singular loop through there. I'm not quite sure if that's what I want or not. You guys' feedback, of course, always welcome and wanting, just because it is also your guys' build as well. We get a nice cool little back parking lot here. I did add our utility truck because we had this kind of large awkward spot in the corner. We might end up putting some utility-esque things back here just because it's tucked away, and we might build a little bit of a fence. It could be dumpsters. I don't know. It's basically just up in the air at this point, You're just adding details, and then when you run out of ideas, you add more details, and then if you run out of more ideas, you add different details. It just becomes a little bit of a crazy project. You can kind of see that I could spend pretty much the whole series just building a parking lot at this point. But we definitely need to move on as quickly as possible. Next time, we get to build this whole area back here. This is going to be the first bus depot. I have no clue what it's going to look like, but I'm sure Google Images will be my best friend during those 2 days. We get to eventually also work on the exterior parking. This is going to be a little bit quicker just because it's a lot of flat ground parking. We don't have to worry about the parking garages or anything like that. So this will hopefully be quick. A couple more bus stops, getting some buses placed, road signs, things like that. But really, we're getting closer for sure to actually laying out the first actual park entrance and area out there. So, this is currently the garage. Let's go ahead and switch it over to nighttime. You guys can see what that looks like because it does look pretty cool in my opinion, seeing this all lit up. It looks very proper and very glowy. Very glowy. It's very city-like, which is exactly what I wanted to see. Even from back here at the ticket booth, kind of toll area, we can really see that off in the distance, and it just looks so much like a parking lot, almost as if I'm going to an airport to go catch a plane. It is just a magnificent build. We also have some security vehicles now over by the ticket booth, which is always handy to have. I might turn off some of those lights. They really shouldn't be on if they're parked. Anyways, I'm getting sidetracked at this point. If you guys are enjoying Alpine Odyssey, do leave a like down below. Leave a comment on ideas and suggestions as we move forward through the series. Your guys' feedback is crucial to the success of this channel. Also, go ahead and check out the other videos if you want to see how all of this is made. So, until then, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope to see you on this next week's live stream, Sunday, around 11:30 Eastern Time. And you guys will get to see some real-time building as we get to work on Alpine Odyssey. So, till then, I'll see you all in the next episode.